Ladies and gentlemen, Andy here. I went from depressed and suicidal to living a life of abundance and joy. If I can do it, you sure as hell can too. I am on day 5 of a fast, so I'm going to be a little bit tired. This will be another chill episode answering this question that I got. So I said recently to all of you that you can leave all of your questions and anything you want me to cover, and I will answer them. And so we got this question. Hey, Andy. I have recently tried active dating. That's absolutely awesome, my man. But as I have heard from a lot of dating coaches, especially John Anthony, who's just another dating YouTuber, I kind of feel that a lot of dating results in shallow connections. It can do. It can also result in deeper connections. That is entirely on you. I know you said romance is not dead. Yeah, it's not. Why would it be dead? Could you just make a video with your girlfriend, Emmy? Well, I don't have Emmy, but I'll do a video with Mr. Llama. Look at that fabulous hat. Now you can just pretend that that's Imogen. So that's Imogen. I'm Andy. All right. Could you do a video with your girlfriend, Emmy, or the llama discussing this and how to develop a better connection with girls and not feel shallow? Because John Anthony says that you hook up with nearly 10% of your phone numbers. Yeah, that's not a crazy percentage. Yeah. I think I probably hook up with a little. It depends. It depends. If it's online dating, then 10%, yeah, that feels pretty much in line with what my experience. If it's approaching women on the street, it's a little bit more than that. It's like, I don't know, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. And this is almost always accurate, but also finishes romance in dating. Please answer. By the way, I love your content. Okay, there's a lot of things I could say here. The first thing I will say is your second last sentence. This finishes or this ends romance in dating. Why? Like, why does only dating 10% of your phone numbers mean that there's no romance? Doesn't that just mean that you had to talk to 10 people before you found some romance? Why does that mean romance is dead? That's your story that you're putting onto the situation. And that's kind of going to be the running theme of my answer here today. So if you grab my video course, this one here, it's called Play to Win, How I Built a Winner's Mindset. In it, I have this chapter called Everything is a Story, and you're in control of the stories that you tell. And you can tell a story that romance is dead. You're allowed to tell that story. But that sounds like a painful story. And you're also just making assumptions. How do you know that romance is dead? You said I might have to talk to 10%. I might have to talk to 10 people before I go on a date with someone, and therefore romance is dead. Why? Or maybe you listened to, some dating coaches or whatever, and I haven't listened to them, so I don't know what they've said or what you've picked up on, but you're telling this story that romance is dead. And as I said in the video course, everything is a story and you're in control of the stories you tell. In this section, in this chapter, I talk about how both stories, you could tell two separate stories or a lot of different stories, and both of them can be correct. So you could tell a story that romance is dead, and we could sit there and find all of the reasons why romance is dead, and we could come up with a long list of evidence to show that romance is dead, like in a Western country. I'm assuming you're in a Western country. I might be wrong, but whatever. We could come up with a long list of evidence. I have to talk to 10 people or I have to get 10 phone numbers before one of them will finally go on a date with me and, move on to sex or romance or whatever I'm looking for. That means romance is dead. Everybody's so busy with their lives and they're so caught up in social media and blah, blah, blah. And we could write this long list of 10 or 20 things. We could come up with 100 reasons why romance is dead. But that would just be one way of looking at it. That would be, as I say in this video course, just one story. And we're in control of the stories that we tell. We could equally tell a story that romance isn't dead. Romance is alive and well. Romance is this beautiful thing that's flourishing, and it's up to me to go out there and find it. I could say to you, isn't it amazing that you only need to get 10 phone numbers and one of those people will go on a date with you? Isn't that fucking amazing? Isn't that amazing that you can walk out onto the street right now and talk to, it depends on the person and, a lot of different factors, but you could talk to 20 people, maybe 30 people, and you could be on a date with one of them. Isn't that insane? Isn't that romantic as hell? I could tell a story that, there are so many women out there that are just dying for romance and they would give anything for it. If you're saying that all of these dating coaches are telling you that romance is dead, doesn't that tell you that the people who still want romance are going to be 10 times more hungry for it? They're going to be 10 times more grateful for it. They're going to be 10 times more excited about it because it's so rare. And so we can tell the story that romance is dead, and you're allowed to tell that story, but that sounds like a painful story. It also isn't necessarily true. Like I said, we could equally tell the story that romance is alive and well, and then we could move in that direction and go for what we want. And with this percentage here, saying 10% of your phone numbers will go on a date with you, meaning, 90% won't. If you focus on that 90%, you're doing what I call playing not to lose, or you're focusing on losing and you're saying, man, I'm going to lose 90% of the time. And it's like, what do you care about the losing? What is the losing? Not that it's really losing, but what do I give a shit about the losing? What has that got to do with anything? Am I not here to find romance? Why do I care about all the people that don't want romance? Why do I care about the 90% of phone numbers that won't go on a date with me? Like, why do I even remotely care about that? Aren't I here to find romance? Why don't I focus on that 10% that do want to go on a date with me? And then I'll be as romantic as I possibly can with them. And I'll have a beautiful time with them and we'll have some great experiences. And some of them will last for a little while. Some of them will last for a long while. But I'll move in that direction. So in my video course, I have another chapter called Play to Win Instead of Playing Not to Lose. And the entire point of this chapter is me talking about focusing on what you want rather than focusing on what you don't want. And if you're sitting there focusing on, 90% of people that I get phone numbers from won't go on a date with me, that's focusing on what you don't want. How the hell are you ever going to get what you want if you're wasting all of your time and energy and brain power and willpower focusing on the things that you don't want? And so rather than telling the story that, 90% of phone numbers won't go on a date with me, that's awful, switch that around and say, man, isn't it beautiful that 10% of people will go on a date with me? Holy shit, that's pretty good odds. That is insanely good odds, by the way. It's not like you need to get 100 phone numbers and then one of them will go on a date with you. Even if that was the case, that would still be beautiful. You're telling me that you only have to get, 10 phone numbers before you have a chance at romance. That's incredible. That's amazing. That's like the world's best lottery. Go and look up the odds of winning the lottery. And here you go. I looked it up for you. The odds of winning the lottery are 1 in 8.14 million. 1 in 8 million% chance of winning the lottery. And you're saying I have a 1 in 10 chance of winning romance or building some romance with someone. Holy fucking shit, that's incredible. And so you can tell this story that, man, I have all these beautiful opportunities. I can go on Tinder, I can go on Hinge, I can go on Bumble, I can go on any of the dating apps. I can go outside and talk to women. I can go to meetups and social events. I can go to sporting events like sports clubs, like where you actually play the sport, soccer, tennis, any of these sort of sports. I can go on hiking groups. I can go to just casual meetups. I can be sitting in a cafe and just talk to a cute girl. I can be sitting on a bus or a train and I can just go and say hi to someone. I can literally go outside and walk around and talk to 10 women in a day or 20 women in a day and see if any of them are interested in romance. And when you start thinking more about what the thing you want, or thinking about the thing that you want and moving more towards that, then you'll actually start taking the action that will get you that thing. But if you sit there watching, dating coaches, and I don't know who you're watching. I know you said John Anthony, but like, has he ever said romance is dead? Like, I don't know. I don't know the guy. I don't know his content. Has he actually said that? Or have you just been assuming that from him and other people that you've been watching? If they actually say that, I probably wouldn't watch that content. I'm not saying don't watch the guy entirely, but I wouldn't watch the more negative content that talks you out of your goals. But I'd be very surprised if he or anyone else has actively said to you, romance is dead, given he's a dating coach. Wouldn't that kind of go against his entire message? I assume, and I'm making a big assumption, so feel free to, reply to this video and fill in the details a little bit, but I'm assuming he's probably just told you, yeah, you have to get 10 phone numbers and then you'll go on a date. And you have made that assumption, or you've told the story that, oh shit, romance is dead. So no, romance is not dead. Romance is alive and well. There are a billion women out there that would just give anything for romance. Why don't you try asking a few women? Why don't you try going up to some women on the street or friends that you might know or friends of friends and ask them, hey, do you think romance is dead? I've been watching these dating coaches and blah, 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 blah. They all say that romance is dead, even though I don't think any of them are actually saying that. They might be, I might be wrong. But all these dating coaches, I'm getting the feeling that that romance is dead. What do you think? And why don't you just go ask 20 women on the street or 50 women? You can ask young women, old women. Ask the women that you're interested in, like girls that are in your, preference range or whatever. Go up to them on the street and just ask them, how do you feel about romance? I'm telling you right now what will happen, but don't just believe me because I'm just some dating coach on the internet. Go up to them and ask them. And I think you'll be surprised that a lot of them will say, I think most of them will say, holy shit, are you kidding me? I want romance. It's just that all of the guys don't seem to be being romantic. And so why would I be romantic? I'm the woman. It's not generally expected of me to be the romantic one. And so this is what I'm going to say to you. If you want romance, you go first. You initiate that. You be romantic. But instead, you're sort of sitting here feeling like romance is dead. And that story that you're telling is probably not going to make you feel very romantic. And you're probably not going to go out there and try and be romantic. And therefore, none of the women will be romantic with you. Remember that dating coaches, like John Anthony, again, I don't really know the guy, but I'm going to assume that if he's talking about hooking up, like you said, John Anthony says that you hook up with nearly 10% of your phone numbers. If he is specifically talking about hooking up, then that doesn't sound like he's looking for romance, does it? Those two things are not mutually incompatible. But if he's specifically trying to hook up, then yes, he will have a lower percentage of women that are interested in romance because he's not being romantic. If he's trying to hook up, if he's using words like hook up, which I don't know if he is, I don't know if that's you using that word or him using that word, but if he is using words like hook up, that doesn't sound very romantic, does it? Does that sound romantic? No. And so he's probably, again, I'm assuming because I don't know his content, I'm assuming he's probably just trying to get laid or hook up, in which case, yes, there will probably be less romance, or there will be less romance at the start, and then you might have to build that the longer that you see someone. And so instead of looking to hook up, go into this saying, I want to find some romance. I want to build some romance. And that's another point. You're sort of phrasing all of this as, I have to go and find romance, but I don't know if romance is dead. It's like, motherfucker, why don't you just be romantic? And then it's not dead. It's alive and well. It's alive in you. It's like saying, man, nobody has any beautiful connections in dating anymore. How am I ever going to find a connection? It's like, you're not going to find one. You're going to build one. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Gandhi said that. Byron Katie says, if you want something, you go first. Don't sit there and expect other people to do it. And I think you might be doing that with this. I think you might be sort of sitting there and expecting romance to just happen or deep connections to just happen. And as I've said a million times, no, connections are something that you build. And if you go onto my YouTube channel, click on the playlist section, and I have all the playlists that I've made. And there's one in here that's relationships, this one here. And if you click on this, I have a whole bunch of videos about how to build instead of just expecting romance to happen. I grow it. So I talk about in this one, I grow relationships organically over 6 to 12 months. I literally talk about how to build romance in that one. The cheat code to quickly building a connection. This is literally talking about romance and connection. Want loyalty, how to earn respect, trust, and more. This is like building romance. How to have the best relationship ever. I talked about romance in that. Qualities to look for in a woman. So there's so many videos in here where I talk about like how to build relationships and build romance. This one as well about like growth mindset. I talk about feelings, like how to build feelings. This one here, love is not what you see in the movies. This one is probably the most relevant to the question here today because I specifically talk about how a lot of people do what you're doing in this question, which is you think that romance is something that you just go out and find. And so you're expecting that, we'll just find love, like we'll just magically feel all this connection and all of that. And I talk about, no. Love is something that you build. Love is an action, not a feeling. I talk about the same thing here in this video. The concept of one, like finding your soulmate or finding the one is bullshit, but romance isn't. So I talk about how to build romance. Literally, this video is about how to build romance. In this video here, green flags to look for in a partner, I talk about some of the things that I look for. And so you could come up with your own list of green flags rather than red flags, because red flags, yeah, it's great to have boundaries and all of that, but I like to focus on what I want rather than what I don't want. Red flags, all the things I don't want. Why would I be interested in what I don't want? Am I not here to find the thing that I want? So green flags. So you could look up, or you could write down, a list of green flags that you have. And one of them might be, I want a woman that's open to romance. I want a woman that's very grateful for my romantic gestures. I want a woman who will say, oh, that's so sweet when I do something romantic. And I'm going to look for that. I'm going to screen for that. And you could screen very hard for that. You could literally put that in your Tinder and Hinge bio. When you walk up to women on the street, you could do something a little bit sweet or a little bit romantic or something and find the ones who respond well to that. Literally, you could walk around with like a bunch of flowers or something, and you could go up to women and be like, hey, I got this for you because, I feel like there's a little bit less romance in the West, or romance where I live, and I want to start bringing a little bit more romance back into things. So here's a flower. I thought you were really beautiful. I wanted to say hi. How's your day going? And you could just start with that. There you go. The women that have a really good reaction to that, who are like, oh my God, this is like the sweetest thing ever. Like, man, you're right. Like, there isn't much romance. Like, holy shit. Like, this means so much to me. Yeah, I'm single. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to go on a date with you. Boom. There's your fucking romance. But if you're sort of, as you said in your question, if you're focusing on maybe what like John Anthony, and again, I don't know what he's said, but if you're focusing on what you say John Anthony has been saying about hooking up, then yes, there's not romance there. You're not hooking up is not necessarily trying to be romantic. You're not screening for romance. So screen for romance by, like I said, walking up to women and saying, here's a flower. Go into like a field of flowers or something and just pick like 10 flowers and just walk around giving them up to women. So you don't even have to buy any flowers, or just find some other romantic gesture that you could do. And there you go. That's you starting the romance. In this video here, and again, these are all in the playlist, in the relationships playlist, love is not a feeling. Love is an action. You can say the same about romance. Romance is not a feeling. It's an action. If you want romance, you go first. You be the change that you want to see in the world. You be romantic. I talk a little bit about honesty and stuff like that, but yeah, I would recommend you jump into this playlist, this relationships playlist on my YouTube channel, and just watch some of the ones that I just pointed out to you here, like how to grow a relationship, ideas about romance, love is not a feeling, it's an action, and all of that sort of stuff. So you are entirely allowed to have romance, but you're going to have to be the one to do it. That's what screening is. And I give this same advice to women, by the way. If there's any women out there listening and you want romance, you go be the change that you want to see in the world. Don't run towards like hooking up and stuff like that. Not that there's anything wrong with hooking up. I still to this day hook up, although less so. These days, Imogen and I, if you're not familiar, Imogen, my girlfriend, and I, we date women together, and we tend to look for connections now. So we don't have sex on the first date. We screen really hard for people that we think will be a decent, like medium term match. We try not to hook up with someone that we think will only sleep with us 3 times or something. So we're looking for deeper connections. We've been dating one girl in particular for like over a year at this point. So we're looking for, I don't know if you'd call that romance, but we're looking for deeper connections. And we're a couple having threesomes. And if we can find deeper connections, and more to the point, I'll phrase that again, we're not finding deeper connections, we are building deeper connections. And if we, as a couple who are just having threesomes, can build deeper connections and find the people that want to build a deeper connection with us, you as a single man, and any women listening, you as a single woman, you absolutely can. It's far easier to build a deeper connection and romance when it's one-on-one compared to when you're a couple seeing girls together. So romance is dead if you say it's dead. Romance is not dead if you say that it's not dead. It's entirely up to you. You are in control of the stories that you tell, but I hope this video has helped you come up with a few, or given you a few little ideas of how to screen for the thing that you want and run towards the thing that you want and start building the thing that you want. And again, you can be very clear in your Tinder and Hinge and Bumble bio. You can literally say, I'm looking for a woman that appreciates romance, or I'm looking for a woman that wants to build a great connection. And you can say that on your first dates. I would also suggest that you don't have sex on the first date. You're allowed to if you want to. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're looking for something romantic, go on dates with people, 2 or 3 days before you guys hook up. And you can still flirt and touch each other and make out, and you can, go home and dry hump each other, and you can explore sexuality and stuff like that. But I'm saying it's almost like you're slowing it down and taking a little bit of time to build a connection before you jump into sex. Again, nothing wrong with hooking up. I've done that a billion times at this point. Not really a billion, but you get the exaggeration. But if you want romance, focus on the romance rather than hooking up. And even, your question here of John Anthony says that you hook up. Why do you care about hooking up? If John Anthony happens to be talking about hooking up, wouldn't you listen to that and go, oh, he's talking about hooking up? And yeah, that's great. I can follow lots of that, but I'll just change it a little bit and insert a little bit more romance in there, and I'll focus a little bit on romantic gestures and deeper questions. That's something else that you can do. You can ask deeper questions on your first dates, or ask deeper questions on your dating apps. Or if you go up to women on the street and talk to them, start asking deeper questions. Go to this website. It's called partycues.com. You can just Google Party Cues, and they have an Android app and an Android app and an Apple app. And basically this app has a whole bunch of questions in it. And a lot of them are really deep questions. I have this app on my phone. I have a couple of other apps as well because I really love these concepts. Another really good one is an app called Big Talk. But the Party Cues one probably has the most amount of questions. And I'm pulling it up on the screen here. Hopefully you can see this. But it basically has a whole bunch of all these different categories of questions. And the point is that you would, on a date, just ask some of the questions from this app. And some of them are really deep and meaningful questions. Like there's literally a section called Deep. And so what you would do is you would ask some of these questions to your dates to build that connection that you're looking for. And so I've just pulled up the app. I'll just read some random ones out to you. If you had a chance for a do-over in life, what would you do differently? What is success to you and what motivates you to achieve it? What was your closest to death experience that you've always had? What's something that you've always wanted to do, but you're worried about people judging you for it? There's also an entire section on date questions and romance questions. There's literally an entire section on romance questions. It's called Second Date. And there's a first date, and there's a love section. There's an entire section on like, what is the hardest, literally on love. And some of the questions are like, what is the hardest type of love for you to receive? Why? Which love language would you like to have more of in your workplace? What love language didn't your parents model well in their relationship? So you're literally asking questions about love and deep questions and who you are as a person and what gets you excited and what your goals are and all of that. So just pull the app up and show her that you have this app. Be like, look at this cool app. I love this app. Do you want to pick some questions from this app? And you show her the screen that has all the different categories on it. And you say, all right, you pick a category and I'll pick a category, and we'll ask each other one question. We'll both ask a question from whichever categories we want, and we'll just play with this app. I do this on lots of my dates. It's a really good way to build connection, or in your case, what you're looking for, romance. So again, this website is just called partycues.com, or you can just search for Party Cues, and there's lots of other apps that do the same thing. It's free, or there's a free version. I pay for the paid version because there's even more questions, but you can just grab the free version. I think the paid version is only a couple of dollars as well. It's super cheap. But just grab this and pull this out on your dates. There you go. Boom. That's your deeper connection. That's your romance. This is what I'm talking about where I say, romance is something that you build. There is also a psychologist. There's a list of questions that a psychologist came up with that are specifically designed and engineered to help people fall in love. In other words, to build romance. And so you can just search for questions to fall in love, and I think it's 36 questions, and click on this top link here, the Cosmopolitan one, 36 questions to fall in love. It's got a big explanation of how the questions were developed and all of that sort of stuff. If you scroll down a little bit, here's the actual questions. And so all the questions are here. You can pause the screen if you want to, or go and read all these questions. But, they start out pretty gentle, like, given the choice of anyone in the world, who would you want as a dinner guest? When did you last sing to yourself or to someone else? And as you make your way through the questions, so the idea is you're supposed to ask the questions in order. As you make your way through the questions, right down the bottom, they get really fucking deep and meaningful. Like, tell your partner, like tell the woman that you're on a date with or the guy that you're on a date with, something that you like about them already. When did you last cry in front of another person or by yourself? Of all the people in your family, whose death would you find the most disturbing and why? Share a personal problem and ask your partner's advice. And when they say partner, they mean the person you're on a date with. Ask their advice on how he or she might handle it. Blah, 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 blah. So there's all these different questions. If you were to die, what would you most regret not having told someone? And why haven't you told them yet? Like, these are some deep fucking questions. Like, I've done this with people. I did this with Imogen on, like, I don't know, the fourth date that we had. I've done this with lots of girls. I've done this with some friends as well. Like, these questions are literally engineered, again, by a psychologist to help you fall in love or to help you build romance. So you could pull this out on a date and literally be like, yo, have you seen this? 36 questions to fall in love. And she'll be like, what the hell? What is this? I haven't seen this. And you're like, look, it's like by this psychologist woman. Do you want to ask each other some of these questions? And we don't have to ask all of them. That's made pretty clear in this as well. I think it even says in this article, like, you don't have to answer all these questions. You also don't have to ask all these questions all at once, by the way. You can if you want to, and I have, but sometimes I've just slowly made my way through the list and, you ask each other 5 questions and then maybe on the next date you ask 5 more. But this is a great way to build romance. So again, with your question, you're very much focusing on what you don't want, which is, man, I don't want to have shallow connections. I don't want to just hook up and not have romance. Man, I don't want to have 90% of women not respond to my text messages and not go on a date with me. Fuck that. Focus on what you do want. And again, I don't know John Anthony, but he might just be focusing on hooking up. He might have no interest in romance, in which case, yeah, he's probably not going to be able to give, it's not that he wouldn't be able to, but he's probably not giving you advice on romance. I do, like me, Andy, I do love romance. I love romance to bits. I'm like a fucking romantic at heart. Hence that playlist that I showed you with all the videos on how to build romance. And, these questionnaires like I just showed you on the screen, 36 questions to fall in love, and this, where is it? The Party Cues thing, whatever, I've lost it. But you get the point. All of these questions in the app, the Party Cues app, focus on what you want, which is romance. And it's going to have to be up to you to build that. And she will help you with that, obviously. Go on dates and screen for people that want romance. And the way that you do that is you just put that in your Tinder bio. You could even, and when you walk up to women, just talk about romance. You could even in your messages, like when you get a girl's phone number or on Tinder and Hinge and Bumble, like in your messaging, you could put something to screen for romance in there. Like you could literally say something like, I don't know, what does romance mean to, tell me your idea of romance. Like, how do you like to receive romance? Is romance something that's beautiful to you, something that's important to you? Do you like romance? How important is it to you on a scale of 1 to 10? Any of these sort of questions. You could also ask her for romance. You could be like, have you ever done something romantic for a guy? And, what romantic thing would you do? You could put that in your in like the third message or the second message that you send to girls. What does romance mean to you? And if someone's like, oh, ha, 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 I don't really care, I'm just trying to take it as I go, I'm just trying to have fun, then maybe you don't meet that person. Or maybe you still do, because that doesn't rule out marriage. That doesn't rule out romance. Just because they haven't ever done romance doesn't mean that they're not romantic at heart, but maybe you screen really hard for the people who say, oh my God, romance is just this beautiful thing to me. I love romance. I love just like the little moments and sitting there and blah, blah, blah. Screen for what you want. Screen for people that are open for romance, that want to build something romantic. And then you start being romantic with these deep questions, with doing something a little bit romantic, with even just things like your first date and your second date. Why don't you go and do something romantic? I like to do romantic things, not all the time, but I do romantic dates. I've done plenty of romantic dates. Like go and sit by the water and just look up at the stars, and maybe you talk for a while and then you hold each other's hand and you just say, this is really beautiful. Go do something romantic. Be like, let's go to a beautiful flower garden and I'm going to, you can tell me your favorite, like we'll go to a park that has all these flowers and you can pick out your favorite flower and I'll pick it for you and I'll put it in your hair. And like literally tell her that. Like literally before you guys meet up, be like, let's go to this beautiful park. It's going to be amazing. And then you go to the park and you're like, all right, I'm going to find you a flower. Let's do something romantic. You can literally say to her, like, what romantic things do you have? You could do this. On a first date, you could be like, all right, I really want to have a really exciting romantic date. So how about I'm going to say like one or two romantic things and we'll do that. And then you say one or two romantic things and we'll do your idea. You can even tell her beforehand if you want to. Before the date, you can say, yo, come up with like one or two really romantic ideas. And I'll come up with one or two romantic ideas and let's say them to each other. And before you ever go on the date, before you go on the first date, just when you're texting, she says her one or two ideas, you say your one or two ideas, and then you put them together and you have a romantic date. You guys could go on a fucking picnic or something and have a little bit of wine or have some cheese and crackers or whatever it might be and just watch the sunset or watch the sunrise, or, you could go for a little hike in nature or something. That can be romantic, all alone early in the morning, you're hiking, and then, when you two are alone, you've known each other for like a couple of hours now, you've walked around, there's some chemistry there. You can just say, hey, come here, I want to kiss you. And if she comes closer and wants to kiss you, you guys kiss and you have a beautiful romantic time in nature. Like there's all these different romantic things that you can do, but move towards the thing that you want, which is romance, instead of being almost afraid or, afraid of hooking up in the things that you don't want. And again, she's on your team. You can ask her for ideas. You can literally say, hey, woman, I really want romance. I have 2 or 3 ideas for romance. Tell me, 1 or 2 ideas for romance, and we'll put it all together and we'll do this like really cool, fun date. And it doesn't have to be this big pressure, like giant romantic gesture, but just a normal chill date, but with some romance inserted in there, like a picnic or, sitting under the stars, or you're walking around a really beautiful, river or something, and you just kind of, at the river, you stand there or you sit there for a little bit and you just kind of go like, this is really nice. And you ask each other all the deep questions that I've shown you, and well, not all of them, but you ask each other a few deep questions and talk about romance. You can talk about romance as well on the date. Like talk about the fact that, like, I would be very open and honest. I would open up and say, hey, I've watched all these, like, I'm trying to get advice on like dating because, I'm trying to improve my dating life and all of that. And a lot of the content creators that I'm watching say that romance is dead, but I don't think it has to be, do you? And then she'll say, no, I don't think romance has to be dead, but I can see why they would say that because, there's definitely a lot of casual sex and hooking up and all of that. And then you guys can have this big conversation about like, does casual sex have to mean no romance? And then she can be like, no, I don't think so. But I think people are just scared of romance because they're scared of getting feelings and, maybe they don't want to move too fast. And, casual sex is a lot easier because there's less commitment. And then you guys can talk about that. And cool, that's romance. That's you talking about the thing that you want. I would also suggest you could watch romantic movies together if you want to. Go on a normal date for a little while, and then maybe on the second date or whatever, get her over to your place or you go to her place and watch a romantic movie. And don't just watch any crappy romantic movie. If you want my absolute favorite romantic movie of all time, it's called Before Sunrise. This movie, oh my God, the most amazing romance movie I've ever seen, because it's not just a crappy romantic comedy. It's not even really a comedy. I mean, there are funny moments in it, but it's not just the generic like chick flick, Hollywood cliche romantic movie. It's so unbelievably realistic, and a lot of the dialogue was completely unscripted, and a lot of the script was written by the 2 actors. The 2 actors are Julie Delpy, who's just absolutely adorable, and Ethan Hawke, who just, man, these 2 people, this is just such a fucking romantic movie. I get so many goosebumps like thinking about this movie, but both of those actors sat down with the writer and the director, and they like helped write the script. And a lot of the dialogue, like I said, is completely unscripted. And you sort of follow these 2 people, they're spending a night together. So a first date, and they spend the entire night together. He basically misses, I won't spoil it, but they spend the entire day and night together. And you watch these 2 characters fall in love. Like literally, it's so unbelievably realistic because nothing grandiose or amazing happens, but it's still really romantic and it's still unbelievably sweet. And just through them talking, they fall in love with each other. And you feel like you're on that journey with them. It feels so unbelievably intimate and realistic. It's one of those, like I said, romantic comedies, and it's less of a comedy. No, that's not true. It still is funny, but it's one of those romantic comedies that feels unbelievably realistic. So Watch this with a woman. Like, this is a movie to watch, by the way, if you want to fall in love, because you'll fall in love with these two characters and you'll fall in love with humanity and you'll fall in love with life itself and romance. It's very much a movie about the concept of romance, but incredibly fucking realistic. Like I said, so much of the dialogue was just unscripted and it was them just talking and almost like falling in love. Once you've watched that, if you want another recommendation, oh my God, what's this? Before Sunset. But that sounds like a similar title to the previous one, which was Before Sunrise. What's Before Sunset? Oh my God, wait, is it a sequel? Is it the two actors again in a second follow-up one? Oh my God, and it's just as good? Are you kidding me? It got just as good reviews? What the hell? Yes, this is a sequel that is basically the same concept. I will not spoil the second one, because the second one goes in a completely different direction than what you expect, but it's so unbelievably amazing. And the movie was made 9 years after the previous one. And the actors in it, or the characters in it, that it's like they have aged 9 years as well. So the movie is showing you what they're like 9 years later, and romance like 9 years later. And if you want a third recommendation, oh my God, what's about to happen? Holy shit, is there a third one? Oh my fucking God. And did that get just as good reviews? Yes, it fucking did. And this third one is set 9 years after the second one. And so the actors are 9 years older and the characters they play have aged 9 years in the movie. And so now you're seeing what their relationship is like 9 years later. And I won't spoil anything, but all three of these movies are just absolutely fucking mind-blowing at how realistic they are and how much you fall in love with the characters and how there's no Hollywood cliche bullshit. It's just two people that clearly care about each other very much and are clearly very romantic, and how they build that and how they navigate that and how they go from, a first night of passion and romance and all of that to building something a little deeper. And then eventually, again, I won't spoil it, but it's just such a beautiful experience to watch these two characters and the actors themselves, I guess, evolve over 18 years. There's 18 years between the first movie and the third movie. And all three of them, like I said, are just so unbelievably fucking romantic and realistic with them. I would recommend these movies, even if you're someone that's watching and you're like, I have no interest in romance. They're still good fucking movies. They're really good movies on how realistic, like they're a realistic depiction of romance and then relationship and then what comes after that. So these three movies, you could sit down and watch them with a girl, and then there you go, boom, that's you building romance. So again, those three movies are Before Sunrise is the first one, and then Before Sunset, and then Before Midnight. I absolutely love these movies. I've watched these movies like fucking 5 times. I've watched them with a couple of different girls. Imogen loved these movies. They're just so unbelievably realistic and so unbelievably good at depicting romance in a realistic way rather than a Hollywood bullshit, over the top cliche way. And there's no cliches. There's no bullshit of like, he's about to get on an airplane and then she has to, or she's about to get on an airplane. He has to run after her at the airport. And he's like, no, wait. And then she doesn't go on the airplane. She's like, what is it? And he's like, I never told you this, baby, but I love you. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you love me. And then they embrace and they get together. And then there's wedding bells and then the credits roll. There's none of that bullshit. There's none of that fucking bullshit. In fact, quite the opposite of that shit. So there you go. You could watch those movies with a girl on the second date. That's how you build romance. You could ask all those deep questions. You could screen for romance, blah, blah, blah. All of this, as you can see, is me telling you to run towards the thing that you want and build the thing that you want, rather than focusing on the thing that you don't want, which is shallow connections and hooking up. And again, nothing wrong with shallow connections or hooking up, but if those aren't the things that you want, move towards what you do want. Again, I really recommend you go and grab my video course. You can pay whatever you would like to pay for that. You're basically giving me a donation. Even $1 is fine. The video course is called Play to Win, How I Built a Winner's Mindset. And I specifically talk about, there's an entire chapter called Play to Win instead of Playing Not to Lose. In other words, focus on what you do want, which is romance, rather than what you don't want, which is shallow connections. Build those beautiful, romantic, deep connections and find the women that want the same thing as you, and have a bloody good time doing it. As always, ladies and gentlemen, from this good little llama and I, go out there, crush those goals, and have a bloody good time doing it. Whatever your goals might be, whether that's money, relationships, sex and dating, fitness, health, friendships, whatever, We are here to help you make those beautiful goals come to life. Ed did it. Taylor did it. Harry did it. None of them are special. If you're listening to this, you know you're capable of more than you're currently giving. You already want something more than what everybody else around you seems to be content with. You want to achieve more, be more, give more to the world. You know it, and I know it. You're destined for something beautiful. Click the link to the coaching in the description below, and let us help you get there. Happiness starts today. You're such a pretty little llama, aren't you? But guess what? Imogen is much hotter than you. Yes, she is. I'm so sorry. Oh, don't be sad. Don't be sad.